Bayview Podcast with hosts Andrew Clark and Chris Emery. This is designed to be a discussion on all things life and faith. We hope this serves as a weekly resource and encouragement to you.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Bayview Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andrew, joined as always by...
Hello, Chris Emery. Yes.
I always pause. I'm like,
you do. I don't even know where to go with that
No
now.
name ever comes to mind. I'm just going to have to just go with Chris. So
I need to like get an honorary doctorate or something. You just doctor.
Yes.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. So, yeah, man, how you doing today?
I'm good. It's at the recording of this episode. It's snowing outside, or was snowing, and it's white. And here we go.
We go. Finished up Thanksgiving last week. Big, kind of that kickoff to the holiday stretch. Yeah. Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah, we've kind of transitioned as a family to where like Thanksgiving is like that time is just kind of more family time, just because of where my extended family's at and my wife's family and all that. It's a little more of a natural break as well. So we do a lot of fun kind of family stuff. Try to stick together for a couple of days. And that was really good. That was really fun. So my younger brother was there, and he's getting married soon, and so his fiance was there, and plus my other brother and his wife and kids. It was fun.
Good.
What about you?
Yeah, we had a good one as well. It was a little different. We actually had all our immediate family together the night before.
Okay.
Great time, games, food, just hanging out. Then on Thanksgiving Day, a lot of our kids were with their in-laws or in-laws to be. Mm-hmm. So super cool, chill, a little more calm and relaxed. But I don't know, man. I love like the busyness. I love the big family get-togethers. But I'm learning too. I like some downtime too. Like I like to chill. It was good. Just got to kick back, watch some football, hung out a little bit. So no, we had a great time. Great one. I love the holidays. I love gearing up. I am that guy that I'm a super stickler on Christmas music too early.
Okay.
But as soon as Thanksgiving's over, now it's okay.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Before Thanksgiving, stop it.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's too early.
Yeah.
You know, stores putting out Christmas stuff in July a little early, but for me, Thanksgiving ends. We do, as I'm sure a lot. We decorate the Saturday after Thanksgiving, but I went ahead and had all my outdoor lights up ahead of time.
Okay.
So Friday night, the day after Thanksgiving, boom.
Cool.
Clark Griswold lighting it up.
Joy to the world. No,
sweet. No, it was good, man. It really was. And I don't know, but we've talked a little bit about the holidays, Christmas. We're coming into it. Mm-hmm. Both of us are at a different place now in our lives than where we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Certainly, no longer children.
Yep.
I don't know. Christmas, it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
Over the years. Not bad, but definitely changed. Mm-hmm. But every once in a while, something will happen. I'll come across something and it just sparks some of those old Christmas memories.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, there's been different times. I was even doing it just even during this Thanksgiving time and thinking back to because basketball season starting and all that, and I was just trying to think back to this time of year always had so many things going. I think you kind of already mentioned that, how there's just so much go, but it was always Christmas was coming, and that was the finish line. Especially growing up as a pastor's kid, it was December meant a whole different gamut of events and things my parents had to be at or my dad had to be at, and the Christmas Eve services and all that stuff building up to it. And it felt like we got to Christmas morning, and it was just that week between Christmas and New Year's was just the most chill, down, no routine. I mean, even as a kid, I remember feeling that way. It was wow, I wasn't even doing what my parents were doing, what my dad was doing, but it's just you could feel the deep exhale.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I always remember the anticipation always felt so much higher because it felt so busy leading up to that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I remember as a kid how difficult Christmas Eve was. I mean, man, we were so excited for Christmas morning, and I don't know how it is now. It's even as my kids have all gotten older, it changes. But as a kid, I don't know how it was like. I genuinely did not know what I was getting for Christmas, so it wasn't like I'd picked it out and I knew what's under there. No, we did not know.
Yeah.
And so there was that complete, overwhelming excitement about I cannot wait to open these gifts.
Yep.
And there would be that continual begging that, hey, can we open one gift on Christmas Eve? Just one gift. I think there was even a few years my parents gave in and they did let us do that.
Yeah.
And then other years they didn't. I think it was just whatever brought humor and entertainment to their lives based on our torture. Yeah, but so I mean I don't know, like Christmas had such a different vibe.
Yep.
When you're just a kid.
Yeah, I always remember thinking like, there is like that magical feeling as a kid. Like we were the same way. Like my parents were magicians, where they hid stuff, or we always kind of knew too. Like there's always that sense of, if we don't get it here, we got grandma's house is coming. She would give us like the Sears catalog and all those, and we would just circle stuff. And so many times we just circled the most random things and be like, let's see what happens. And then Christmas morning at my grandma's, like, there's the Millennium Falcon. Like, just things you're just like, what the heck? Or then you have like my uncle, who I'm 12, and he's giving me 3 of the Creed CDs, and you're like, all right, like, hold me now. This is awesome. So it just is always like that, like balance of again, anticipation, like not knowing and to wake up and to go to bed and the tree be empty. And we would do games on Christmas Eve and eat snacks and stay up because like the services would end. And but it was like, I always feel like we went to bed so late, and yet no matter how little sleep we got or how much sleep we got, when we'd come up in the morning, like it would, the tree would be filled and be just crazy. That sense of just like, I was like, I don't know how my parents did this.
Yeah.
And that was like that magical, like.
But now you're a parent.
Yeah. So
I get that. And your kids they're just now getting to the age where they really are going to understand. Liam especially, he's starting to really understand.
Thanksgiving ended, and he asked, is it Christmas now? Like, it was like already beginning to click. It's like almost a 4-year-old of like, okay, like every day has been, so is Christmas, like, it's like coming, right? Like I'm seeing it. So it's just fun. What
were one or two of the most epic gifts you were surprised by as a kid, like that you did not see it coming?
One of the all-time, like, it kind of gets joked about even within my family a lot, is not a gift I received, but a gift my younger brother Jared was going to get. And I have a couple that I could share, but there was one that it was like he had asked for like a version of the Game Boy, a little handheld device, and I think it was a Game Boy like PSP or one of like there were so many of them. And my parents had, I guess you could use the word like evilly, like wrapped multiple of his gifts in boxes the same size that the PSP box was. And so all morning we watched Jared. We would do the whole like, one by one go grab a gift. We weren't the crazy like everyone open at once. So, every gift Jared got almost came in the same size box. And
awesome.
So he's freaking out. He'd open it and it'd be like my parents had somehow shoved snow pants into like this tiny little box. Or then like the next thing it'd be socks. Like it was all this stuff. But then classically, like the very last gift, like buried up under the tree, like in the center, like is the PSP he was asking for. And so like just moments like that, like for me, I think there was a couple nights leading up to Christmas where I remember my dad staying up fairly late, and I could tell, like, just gotta get up to the bathroom, I could see like the living room light, like, oh, like he must be watching TV or whatever. And come to find out, Christmas morning we woke up and we had gotten a Nintendo 64. He was up playing it. Like the week leading up to Christmas, every night he'd be up playing Madden on it or one of these games, and then he'd repackage it.
So good.
And so just stuff like that. Like it was A, we were so shocked we got it, but B, then to come to find out like that's what he was doing, and so some of that stuff, like
that is so epic. It's funny you said N64, Nintendo 64. That was my wife and I, our first Christmas together, is when it came out. And it was, you couldn't get it on the shelves, impossible, sold out like any new game console. I did not realize my wife had planned way ahead. And this is back when you could go to Toys R Us and put stuff on layaway.
Oh.
And so she had gone and done the preliminary deposits. She'd been making payments on this N64, which was a big deal. We were just married. I was a youth pastor part-time.
Mm-hmm.
She was a nanny. I was coaching soccer. I was substitute. We were doing everything, and we were barely getting by. We were dirt poor, but she knew how much this meant to me, and I did not see it coming at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so far out of whack of what I spent on her for Christmas. I wrestled with the guilt for a while because we had an agreement, and she went so far out of whack on it.
Sure.
But that was an eye-popping, like, one of those few moments where I was speechless. Like, I cannot believe I'm looking at this.
Sure.
She did it to me again in 2008 with the very first version of iPhone.
Okay, yeah.
And they were so hard to find, but the church we were pastoring, there was a person that worked, that went to our church, and he was an Apple guy, and he worked for Apple, and he hooked her up. And like, I just remember like opening that, and I was just, I was like, man, so 2008, I mean, I was in my 30s, man. I'm running around the house like a kid that just opened up Boba Fett, you know. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, man.
So that was good. I remember as a kid, we had the one Christmas where Mom and Dad were done with Christmas, and it was good. And all of a sudden, they come rolling out brand new bicycles. So that was pretty big. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember one year my dad, we were kind of done, and all of a sudden my dad comes walking around the corner, and this is the first Christmas when we had moved from San Diego to Alabama.
Okay.
And so he comes walking around, and he has for each, me and my brother, a 12-gauge shotgun. It's like, welcome to Alabama. Here you go.
Fitting.
We'd never shot a gun in our lives. Yeah, the dueling banjos. So yeah, I just remember some of those moments of on the receiving end.
Yeah.
But man, we're going to talk. Talking a little bit about how Christmas has changed. It does shift.
Yeah.
To where your excitement happens. On the other side of that.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, I always think of like as I got older, and I think this is a natural thing. It feels like as you get older, like the gifts do get more expensive, so they do get more like probably meaningful, or just there's a more thought that goes into it when you are getting those gifts. But I remember like the first Christmas with we weren't even married yet, but for my wife now, Nicole, and we were still in college, and it was like trying to pick out like the perfect gift to like recognize like my love for her, right? And I think I got everything from like a stuffed cheetah doll to like a pair of earrings to like a new GPS system. Like I was just like the shotgun approach, like let's just try it. One of these things has got to make her smile. They all really made her really confused. Yeah. But it was still like just that there was more of an urge of, I don't care what I receive. I'm like, I want you to be happy. I want you to receive that feeling of, oh, I care.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know. I think I saw that a lot in my dad, who Christmas was a really big deal to him. And so to see, the thought behind the gift giving and how much fun he had, like, one year my mom, for my mom, he had got her a new minivan, like it was like a Mercury Villager, like old silver, like it was a gnarly little thing. Like I ended up driving it as my first vehicle and all that kind of stuff. But when he had gotten it for her, he had went out and purchased a Barbie van and spray painted it silver and all that kind of stuff. And that was wrapped under the tree, but it was labeled for my mom. And so when she opened it, she's like, John, why? Like, what does this mean to me? And then it was like the classic, like, commercial, like the car sitting out in the in the driveway. But it was like, that's probably an extreme example, but for him it was like there was so much thought that was going into it.
Totally.
And he did it with a lot of the stuff that we got, and my parents are always really good about that. And so trying to take some of that now with kids, of like trying to think through, like, I don't want to just get them things to get them things. Right. But seeing that joy in their face, like, that's the gift. Like, that sounds so Christmas Hallmark movie cliche, but like that's a real feeling. That's a real thing.
Oh yeah. And I find that I'm still as anxious and excited for Christmas morning to get here, but for a totally different set of reasons. Yeah. Like I can't like right now I've got multiple gifts tucked away, and I'm so excited, whether it's for my wife or one of our kids, to open these gifts. and I know I have to wait, but I don't want to wait. So I'm anxious again.
Yep.
Because it's just different, but it's that same feeling.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that's changed dramatically, and you probably know what this is like with now that you have kids. Christmas Eve is different.
Sure.
Because, like you said, I remember waking up Christmas morning, walking out, trees full of presents, bikes are put together, whatever's all out, it's all ready to roll.
Yep.
Clearly, this is very easy.
Yep.
But now I realize, like, man, Christmas Eve is exhausting.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't want to say I dread it, but it is the longest night. Like, I'm just so tired because usually we're done with church. We've got, this year we'll do 3 Christmas Eve services.
Yep.
We'll go, we'll leave here. We'll go hang out with family, all that, get home. And then there's still hours of work to do.
Yeah.
Can we just go to bed, please? Yep. So that's been different. That makes me, there's no way as a kid I could have appreciated that in the moment because mom and dad wouldn't have let us know that was what was going on. But yeah, it's like, okay, this takes a lot of work.
Sure.
It just wears you out.
Yeah, we'll probably start feeling that as our kids are beginning to get a little older now too, because like a lot of stuff right now is really simple, not much put together. But we were starting to see it with some of the stuff we've been talking about or that the kids have mentioned. We're just like, okay, like this, I'm right there with it. Like, I'm seeing the work that went, Santa's little elves, like the work that goes in behind the scenes.
No doubt. It's something.
Yeah.
So obviously we grow, change, Christmas changes. But it's not always, it's not, I don't say not always good changes, but it's not always easy changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a lot of ways, and actually we're getting ready to be going down this path as a church together for this Christmas teaching series we're on.
Yeah.
And that is, that there's all these things we're supposed to feel. We know all the movies and songs that tell us what we're supposed to feel. We know the themes of Advent. These are the things that we should feel: love, joy, peace, hope. But man, there's so many of us that either for the whole seasons or at moments in the season, we don't feel that.
Sure.
Because I think it's fair to acknowledge, and it's appropriate to acknowledge that Christmas and holidays, this is not easy for everybody.
Yeah.
These aren't the great days for everybody.
Yeah.
And that there's just parts about it that are very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So how have you seen that impact your life? I know that you've experienced it in different levels than what I have. And how have you seen that come into play, and how do you guys even work through those seasons now?
It's really interesting because I think there was when Nicole and I first got married, there was a grieving that happened during the holidays because this is a really weird thing, but now doing like marriage counseling and stuff like that and pre-marriage counseling, like it's become a very like big thing I talk about with couples. Like things aren't the same anymore.
Right.
And that's a good thing because now you have your own family. Mm-hmm. But that there was that sense of like, oh man, we've got to figure out what the holidays look like for us, which means like maybe we're not at my parents' for our big Christmas Eve celebration that has so many memories tied to it. Or maybe we're having to travel to her family's in North Carolina. And I say having to, but like we're going there for Christmas and they've got their own traditions and it's uncomfortable on my end because I'm not used to those traditions and having to get used to that. Or maybe for some it is that sense of, well, we're just not going to go do either because it's too difficult or we don't know. I remember like, I don't know if that's I would use the word grieving because it was almost like it was so new that there was a portion where I don't think the holidays lost their sparkle or their, we can use the word magic or whatever, that feeling. Yeah. They didn't lose that feeling, but it was like there was a year or two there. It was kind of this transient feeling of like, okay, what are we, I remember getting the text from my siblings like, oh, I wish you were here and like that kind of stuff. But yet I'm having a good time where I'm at, but it's like, there's that torn feeling that comes in. And so you're right. I do think they change. Like, I don't know if you've experienced that, but there is like a sense of, or maybe for you as your kids have now grown and are out of the house, maybe for holidays and some of that kind of stuff. Like that stuff is the little things I don't think we think about that can really change the dynamic of the holiday season.
Yeah. 100%. I do remember my very first Christmas with my wife's side of the family. So we started this pattern right away with our marriage that we would alternate holidays. Mm-hmm. So one year we'd be with my family at Thanksgiving, her family for Christmas, and we'd flip-flop it. So I do remember the first Christmas. I think our first Christmas was with her family.
Yeah.
And while it was great to have that first Christmas together, great to be with her family. I love her family. I love all my in-laws, my brothers, sister-in-laws. We have a great time together. I do remember thinking, like, wait a second, I'm supposed to be with my mom and dad. Like, this is why I'm not with my family. And it was there was moments. I don't say the whole thing was sad by any stretch, but there were certainly moments of momentary sadness or grieving of like, man, I know they're all together. I was the first one married in my family, and so my brother and sister were still home, and they're all together and they're doing their thing, and it's like, man, this is really hard. We're just now coming into the season now where we'll start experiencing more of that with now that my kids are all grown and leaving the home.
Yep.
My oldest son Brock and his wife Paige, we've had one Christmas where they weren't with us, but her family's not too far away either. So we did have the opportunity to still see them at some point on Christmas Day. But my wife and I are talking. We've got 2 more kids getting married in this coming June, 2 weeks apart. So we're actually not even doing Christmas this year. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But we were like, oh, wait, let's think ahead. Next Christmas is the Christmas where all of our kids now are on the pattern to be with their in-laws. And we're like, oh, wait, this next Christmas could be really quiet.
Yeah.
It may just be me, my wife, and one of my twin daughters.
Yeah.
Everyone else is going to be married and with their in-laws. I'm fine, but I'm kind of thinking like, man, I am going to have some more grieving.
Yeah.
I'm going to have some, man, I miss my little boys and little girls. For us, that time of everybody waking up in the same house, running out, waking us up way too early. It's not time yet. Go back to bed.
Yeah.
1 more hour. Go to bed. All of those things, it's over.
Yeah.
We used to travel with our kids when they were little, and we'd all, every other we'd be with my family, and all the kids would all be bunked down. But my dad had this tradition where he would dress up as Santa Claus, and he'd wake the kids up Christmas morning. And it was one of the most terrifying, traumatic, some of them are still in counseling to this day because of the horrific experience of Santa Claus busting into the room in the middle of the morning. I mean, there were tears. There were literal crying and screaming, but those days are over, right? It's like no more, unless I choose to terrorize my own grandchildren that way.
Jason's,
Jason.
No, and I think that's stuff that you don't think about,
right?
As the change, because I think we do, I think we do naturally shift to the dramatic of what can cause the holiday season or the Christmas season to be different for others and whatnot. But I think there's an importance to recognize that with change comes new seasons, which are good, but there is that grieving that is probably a natural thing that comes with it, because I don't think you would argue like the fact that, your children setting their own traditions, like that's what you guys did. And it's like there's value in that, and that's an okay thing. That's where scripture talks about, the man leaving mom and dad and like becoming the two become one. Like they're going to start their own thing, but there's tension on the whole time, the whole side of I think of this season and that. And then there is the tension then of those who have lost. Like this will be the 4th Christmas now where like since my dad has passed. And it's like that's such like just even today driving in, my wife and I were talking about like whether it's known, planned, prepared for, whatever, when there's a loss, like there is like the reset button gets pushed.
Yeah.
And it's such an interesting like sense where things just don't, there were certain memories, especially early on, and as we've kind of grown and we have kids now in the picture, and there's other things that we've kind of begun to find, the joy in, like those early months and first couple of years, it was a really weird, like, oh yeah, we would have done this. Oh yeah, we could have been doing that. Oh, he would have said this. Like there's all of those little things that like now we laugh and smile, but like early on it was one of those just like one of us kids would bring it up and be like just that moment of like, okay, let's move on. Like, you know what I mean? Right. And so even that can just cause that reset button, I think, within the holiday season can be so can be jarring. It can be, and then it if you let it, and I think, again, not as a professional counselor, and so don't take this as I think it's natural to let it taint the experience. And that's probably an okay thing. That's part of the grieving process.
Yeah.
Like it might be different if you just kind of blew it off and acted like it wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
That might not be the healthiest, but like there's a reality that is part of the picture for a lot of people.
So that's an interesting thought because you're speaking from experience. So your dad actually passed away fairly close to Christmas.
Yeah. Early December. Yeah.
And so maybe that first Christmas wasn't a good moment to be like, what was it like the first Christmas without Dad? Because you guys are probably still in super shock.
Super shock. My wife and I, we had already had plans to not be around for Christmas anyways. We were going to her in-laws. It was one of those years, like the flip-flop years.
Yeah.
You know, but I know for my siblings who were kind of here and around and whatnot, like it just was Christmas morning came and Christmas morning went.
Yeah.
Like it just didn't have the same vibrant, but you were in shock.
Everybody had to be numb at that point. So fast forward for me then to maybe what would technically be the second Christmas without your dad, but the first one where you guys were at a place where you were actually maybe even thinking, clearly a little bit.
Yep.
You're all together.
Yep.
What was that like? And then how would you say you guys have moved through this to certainly not bury it and deny it. No, you live with that, but not letting that define.
Yeah.
What Christmas is.
COVID happened.
Okay, COVID happened. There you go.
But still, there was. It's always been really interesting. This is purely the perspective my wife and I have taken through counseling, through our own conversations, through a lot of this process of the grieving process of like when that moment comes to like, okay, we've always done it this way. I think there is something healthy to say, do we have to always do it this way?
Right.
And it seemed like that's a lot of what has happened these last 2-3 years post that first Christmas, where as a family, and maybe, to my mom's credit, and I think to my siblings, I don't want to just say like my wife and I have kind of stepped up, but in a way, like we've had to be the ones to like call the family meeting and be like, is it more realistic for us to make Thanksgiving the bigger family season and let Christmas be more of we're still going to celebrate, we're still going to treat it like it's special, but let's be honest, like Pops ain't around anymore. That was his holiday.
Right.
Like kind of having to lead the charge in those conversations. And still not shying away from, we have traditions that are just like, why would we stop doing that? But do they look different now?
Sure.
And I think acceptance in that, that's been really healing. We have it's a really specific tradition, and it's really just my brother and I who do it now, but like we make Christmas movies.
I've heard the rumors. I've heard of these. I've yet to see them.
Anyways, then it all started. There's family history and jokes of why we do these little Christmas movies. We still have made one each of these years.
Cool.
Even though the first couple we made were specific to, we know Dad would love this. He'll just love Mom. She won't get this. We're making a Christmas movie that he'll laugh at.
Yeah.
Like we've just continued to go down that path, but we've invited like friends in on the back. Like we've just kind of made it more of like hey, we're just going to do this.
Yeah.
Just be a part of it if you want. We'll still show it on Christmas. We'll send out a teaser trailer to the family. Like we still have just like accepted, like, why would we stop doing this? We enjoy it. Like, but we have changed where the Friday or Saturday after Thanksgiving was throw up the tree. Let's puke all the ornaments onto it, and it just be this gross looking, every ornament from when we were 2 all the way up till now, and grandkids ornaments. It was just like this big, gross looking thing. To now it's like, we set it up this past Saturday after Thanksgiving, but there wasn't as many ornaments, and we let the grandkids, or the kids kind of spend more time being a part of it, and like having it be more like, Mom, what do you want this to look like? And so I think in a lot of ways, like it's been willing to have the conversation. I really believe it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Like I really think like that can help in the grief, because grief will always be there.
Right.
Like I think that's what people really, really, really can understand and maybe grasp is like the blue Christmas will probably always be a shade of blue.
Yeah.
But you can't get rid of Christmas. You hopefully you're not trying to get rid of family. You're not trying to get, like, there's always going to be that grief that's there. It's a journey, not something you can just pass like a test. And so I think that as you work through it in this holiday season, like, some of the things that you can do, or that at least, and this has worked for us, is like some of the things we do celebratory of my father.
Cool.
Or we'll do, as then that reset button got pushed, and we say, hey, are there new traditions we can start? That, not that Dad wouldn't want to do it, but it just works for us now. Let's do them. And so I think just being willing to have the hard conversations from the understanding that this is always going to be grief is always going to be there. That's been probably the biggest step forward for us.
And that's really kind of something I think that you and I both in our pastoral roles would communicate to anybody in general going through grief of a loss, is that the advice of moving on, get over it, whatever the sayings are, those are so all horrible things, and they're not even accurate. But it's like, hey, now kind of step into this, what will become a new normal.
Yeah.
You're going to find normal, but it's going to be a totally different normal, because it's a normal without.
Yeah.
You'll always have that void.
Yep.
You know, you guys will always have Christmas without Dad.
Yep.
And so I think what you said is super healthy. One, having a place, a platform, an ear, something to talk about it. Just acknowledge it.
That's huge.
And not that this necessarily applies to you directly, and not that I would ask for you to speak on your mom's behalf necessarily, but your mom represents a demographic of people that they are without their life partners, you know, their spouses. There's probably some maybe listening. Maybe this is coming into your first Christmas without your spouse.
Yeah.
Maybe this is going to be yet another Christmas where you are completely alone. And I know that there's so many that dread that part of it. How have you seen, maybe, again, not to speak for your mom, and I know that you kids have rallied around her, but you know, you do understand the grief process more than most. What advice do you have for someone if you're thinking ahead and Christmas is defined by loneliness?
Sure.
What are some things you would recommend?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is accepting or realizing that everyone grieves differently. Like, that's a natural thing. Like, and to not belittle or take away from that process. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's what you're called to do, and that's part of the healing process. What we've seen with my mom is we've really tried to. I think she'd be okay with me sharing this. Like, we've seen it where, like, when she gets excited, like, we're gonna roll with it. Like, that's been something that's like trying to encourage that, of like, she had this idea for our Thanksgiving this year where we made gingerbread houses, and it was this big competition, and then like she sent pictures to people and they voted and all that. And it was like, I remember us as kids, and sorry, Mom, but behind the scenes we're like, really? Like this, but it was like, she wanted to do it. Let's do it.
Yep.
And so it was like, it ended up being a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It ended up being one of those things was like, that was cool.
Yep.
And it was like, that was her idea, and that was something that a tradition she wanted to start and be a part of. And so I think for us, like, just seeing those little moments of maybe steps forward, where it's like, hey, like, let's recognize that step forward.
Yeah.
And then I think the biggest thing, like I said, is just realizing that this is not a race, and it's not a test. Like, it is a journey. Like, grief is a wholehearted journey.
Yeah.
The holidays just seem to magnify it. That's to be expected. And for some, maybe Christmas, you don't have any issues with this, but maybe there is another holiday or there's another time of year where it seems to become magnified, that grief. It's okay. I would pray you recognize it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the one thing I've learned through counseling and through these last couple years. And there's, you know, other little grief moments tied into that. It was, you know, the loss of my father coupled with COVID happening, and then coupled with losing a job, and there's all these things that just seemed to kind of like every year, kind of like there was something new.
Yeah.
And through it all, it was not. It was taking the stance of, we're not called to run.
Yeah. Good.
And like that was like that trust in Christ of, this is not my story that's being written by me.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's the author, he has the plan, he's in this. And so if we're going to him in prayer, if we're taking the stance of really trying to lean into what he'd have for our life, then man, like let's face the storm,
right.
because he's got a bigger plan in mind. And I think for us, just again, kind of zoning back in on the holiday season and just being like, it really sucks that my dad's not here, but we're still here.
Yeah.
And I do think that's really easy to fall into that trap of, well, he's not here, they're not here, so blah. And it's like, that is true.
Yeah.
But you're still here.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Well, and it kind of does point back to the Christian cliche that we just will not ever use again because it's so overplayed. But it is so accurate, and this the saying that Jesus is the reason for the season.
Yeah.
And if I could find a way to state that without it rhyming, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, sure.
But it does point back to the core of what that is trying to say. Mm-hmm. And it is a stark reminder to us. And I think this probably for parents, you begin to understand it in this light, because as we talked about earlier, Christmas has changed. We still get just as excited, but there's been Christmases where I've received nothing from my wife.
Sure.
We put all the money into providing for the kids. I was just as excited because that Christmas wasn't about me.
Yeah.
And ultimately what that saying is saying, what is happening around this time of the year for those that follow Jesus, this is not about us.
Yeah.
This is not about our lives, our wants. This is about a moment in history that is the most significant thing that could have happened.
Yeah, it's the apex moment of
history. It is the apex. God sent his son to become flesh.
Yeah.
Sent him from his right hand side to come and be born, so that the end game would be we're redeemed, forgiven, restored. That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
And life is going to just be hard sometimes.
Yeah. And no one needs to validate your feelings that you feel, that loneliness or that there's no peace or feel uncomfortable. Like those are all real things. And that is part of life.
Totally real.
And I don't know what I don't know if it's a pessimist, optimist, all that kind of stuff. I don't tend to lean in any of those directions in saying that, knowing that's part of life, but knowing it's part of, there's a bigger picture, there's a bigger story going on.
So it was funny because I looked it up earlier. I was just like, it's exactly. I've always drawn. I love the Christmas story in the Bible, but I'm always drawn to the message that the angels have for the shepherds. That I read that so many times each and every Christmas season, because it's a proclamation. It's a statement to not the shepherds. It's the angels making a declaration to mankind.
Yeah.
So that's the epic level that this is. And they say this, I bring you good news that will bring great joy to all people. The Savior, yes, the Messiah, the Lord, has been born today in Bethlehem, the city of David. And you'll recognize him by this sign. You will find a baby wrapped snugly in strips of cloth, lying in a manger. And so it's like that is the coming news. That's the headlines. Yeah. That's the clickbait. That's the post headline, right?
Yep.
I bring you good news. This will bring great joy to all people. Yeah. And that applies to whoever reads it. So if you're reading this from a place where you're coming up on what will prove to be maybe the most fun-filled, happy-filled Christmas. Everybody's with you. Everybody's together. Awesome. So happy you get to experience that.
Yep.
So happy you get to have those moments and those memories. But if you're somebody and this is getting ready to be the most difficult Christmas ever, or Christmas has always been difficult, you're the reader. That has the same message to you.
Yeah.
The message of Christmas is a source of great joy. Yeah. And even if it's from the angle of like, hey, it's lonely. Yeah. But ultimately for the follower of Jesus, loneliness will not last forever.
Yeah, that's good.
the loneliness will not be for eternity. The grieving will not be forever. There will come a moment when we find ourselves on the other side of this earth, when we're in the eternal presence of God the Father, and we are experiencing nothing like this. Yeah. And we don't know how to comprehend that. Like, we don't know how to understand. I think heaven, it's so far beyond what we can wrap our minds around that I heard somebody say it, that if we truly grasped what heaven was going to be like, we'd be a whole lot more excited when someone got to go there.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that was out of a episode of 1883, maybe. I don't know. So I don't know, but I'm just saying it wasn't anything. It wasn't some Christian message.
So good.
But I mean, because there's a passage that talks about gold, and it talks about that the I think it's talking about the streets are such pure gold, they're clear.
Wow. Yeah.
We have no idea. I don't, to my knowledge at least, I'm not a scientist. To my knowledge, I don't think we have anything on earth, gold that's pure enough to be transparent.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I've never seen it.
No.
That's pure. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think heaven falls in that thing of like, it's crazy.
Yeah. That's
what this all about. That's the hope and joy.
Yeah.
Is that there's something happening here that changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that, I know that it like you said, I think your words are so wise. It doesn't change what you're feeling. It's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't change how that you wish this person was here, or you wish this was different, or it doesn't change that. We know. But there is a source that gives you something more.
Yeah.
Available to you.
100%.
I know some people struggle to even go to church on Christmas, through the Christmas season, because they don't want to hear about love and joy and peace and hope, because I'm not feeling any of that.
Yeah.
You can.
Mm-hmm.
You can. It may coexist with the fleshly loneliness.
Yeah.
It may coexist. I think you guys probably have a lot of coexisting feelings.
Yeah. That's where I keep using the term where grief is always going to be a journey.
Yeah.
Like, that's been said to me by so many different counselors and pastors and people, where it's just like, that's going to be there.
Yeah.
So the coexisting, I think, is a good term, because, like, again, I go back to just the example I have in my own life. Like, yes, I wish my father was here, but I can still have joy because I play a role of father in my own life now for my own kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't want to undermine or ever underplay someone's emotions or feelings in these seasons. Sure. And it might not be from a loss. It could just be from just loneliness or feeling like you're not there. Like, but it's way easier said than believed and all that. But, like, you're not alone. And there is a reality to what you're going through of they can be, how do you say it? They can be different but the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's obviously a difference. There's a hole. There's something missing. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you can't still find joy or peace. You can't still find hope. You can't still have a sense of love in your life. There's just always going to be the recognition of, like, yeah, but that person's not here.
Yeah.
And it's like, very true.
Yeah. And spend some time thinking about that, reflecting if you need to. It's okay. Embrace that.
Yep.
Well, it's definitely a complicated topic, but as with every complicated topic we tackle, there is this answer that, not to oversimplify it, but there is this super cool, easy answer, and it all comes back to Jesus.
Yeah,
it all comes back to Jesus. And this certainly is a season that really does point to that. This is a season all about Jesus. Yeah. I mean, whether you think it's tacky or not, I know a lot of you will probably do birthday cakes for Jesus, and you'll sing "Happy Birthday" to Jesus.
You just quick side note, your dad would go wake up the grandkids.
Yes.
Dressed as Santa. My parents would blast "Happy Birthday, Jesus," that song through the house to wake us up as we got older. The "Happy Birthday, Jesus," like that. Yeah. It's a really slow one, and so, like, yeah. So we didn't do the cake, but
yeah,
we
you heard that. All right.
Oh, yeah.
I think we had a cake from time to time. I think we sang from time to time. That wasn't a normal routine. Mm-hmm. Dad terrorizing the kids. That was a normal routine.
Normal.
Yeah, that was pretty every year. And I don't know how they didn't see it coming. I mean, you're 10 years old. You better prep. Be ready.
So good.
So, well, hey, thanks for being with us today. Hopefully this is maybe a source of encouragement, maybe something for you to kind of cling to. Do this, even if this season is defined for you often by loneliness, or you don't have to be alone the whole season. I love some of the things we have happening here at our church. If you're listening from outside Traverse City or you have another church home, I know your church has stuff going on.
Yeah.
Go be part of it.
Yeah.
Go out there. Christmas Eve, we've got 3 Christmas Eve services, 3 chances to come and be with your church family and celebrate and be part of that. You're alone, invite somebody to join you.
Yeah.
You know other lonely people probably. Have a little get together.
Yeah.
How great would that be? And so there are things you can do to change the dynamics, and find a way to see what this is all about.
Yeah, 100%.
So, well, hey, we appreciate you being here with us each and every week. If you haven't done so, there at the bottom of the screen, whatever platform you're listening on, you can click subscribe and never miss an episode. We got some exciting ones coming up.
Yeah.
Next week is going to be good. They're always, I always get excited, especially when we have guests. We have some guests coming back on. But until then, we will be here next time. This is Chris. This is Andrew signing off today, and we'll see you next time around.